Hey y'all, TRG here, and in this video we're going to be talking about the potential for a hurricane to impact portions of the Lesser Antilles as well as another tropical wave off the Yucatan and another tropical wave that is currently in the main development region just west of Africa. Let's go right into today's video. So we're going to start off with the National Hurricane Center here. I'm going to move my face cam so you guys can see both of these tropical waves. We have a 70% chance for a tropical storm or a tropical depression to form over the next 7 days and a 40% chance for it to form over the next 2 days. So this is most likely going to begin to form into a tropical storm and then probably push hurricane intensity, if not be a hurricane by the time it gets towards the Lesser Antilles. And then our other tropical wave, that's at a 30%. I still don't see that forming, but it's still going to be the possibility for isolated 3 to 4 inches of rainfall out towards northeastern Mexico over the Yucatan Peninsula. I don't see that impacting southern Texas, but we'll keep an eye on it just in case. And if we go ahead and look at 95L currently, there's not really much impressive stuff with this system by any means. We just have a broad circulating low pressure out here towards the main development region. This is really far from any type of land, so this has a lot of time to intensify. So we'll just be keeping an eye on this satellite as well as the model run. So here's the GFS model. We're going to look at this for both the tropical Atlantic as well as into the Caribbean. So we're going to just go ahead and pull this back over to the Caribbean here. I should say the main development region. And you can see there's our tropical system right there. Now the GFS has this being a tropical storm in less than 3 days. So that is really impressive. And then there's our other tropical wave. We're not going to dive too in depth with that. Just know we have the potential for another tropical wave behind our potential hurricane out there in the Lesser Antilles. So we'll be monitoring that as well. I don't see that second system being that big of an issue, but we will keep an eye on it just in case. And then, of course, we'll go ahead and switch over to this one. You can see your tropical storm, possible hurricane, moving over the southern Lesser Antilles as we go into July 1st. And then it begins to maintain intensity and then eventually weaken towards portions of Jamaica, into Puerto Rico, into Cuba as well. Now, again, like I mentioned in yesterday's video, there's a lot of uncertainty beyond south of Cuba. We're just too far out to really determine what's going to happen after that. We're just going to have to wait and see what the National Hurricane Center says on this once the system eventually forms. Possibly even in the next 3 days, this thing could be a tropical storm. And then in the next 5 days, maybe even a hurricane. So we'll be monitoring that very closely. Now, do keep in mind, this is just the GFS model. It's a deterministic model run. So this isn't like your ensembles or anything. So you do want to take the exact track of this with a grain of salt. But we're pretty much locking in a tropical storm or a possible hurricane landfall in the Lesser Antilles. I really don't see a way that we don't see at least a tropical storm in the Lesser Antilles. And before we continue on in the rest of today's video, I ask that you guys please like this video, share this video with your family, friends, and on social media. You may notice that this video is unedited. That's because I don't have enough time to edit it. I'm busy today, but I'm still going to have this video out at about 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Do note that some of this information may be a little bit old. The National Hurricane Center might have already increased more probabilities on that tropical system, but I just want to at least give you guys a decent update on this tropical system, possible hurricane potential. And then again, here's your ensemble super plots. I'll go ahead and move the screen so you guys can see this a little bit better. Really tight spread between the ensembles and the deterministic models currently. I have not looked at this morning, so I do want to see if the GEFS ensembles still have it taking that far southerly track. And they do not anymore. So in yesterday's video, we had a decent amount of ensembles that were taking this thing into the Southern Caribbean. That's still there, but it's not as solid amount of ensembles. So that is a really good track. Look at that tight spread. That is actually really weird for this time of year. I mean, that is like set in stone on the models and the ensembles. You can still see we have a lot of members that go away from that solid track. The most likely track there is in the black. Then you have your GEFS ensembles in the light green. The dark green is your CMC ensembles. And then the red is your European ensembles. So those are really all very tight spreads. Again, there's still uncertainty on the exact track and as well as intensity beyond Cuba. But we will continue to keep an eye on that. And I'll update you guys as frequently as I can on this system. Here's the intensity guidance from tropicaltidbits.com out here on 95L. And you can see that it actually does have this thing. Most of them have this thing becoming a tropical storm, at the minimum a tropical storm, but a lot of these models are going to intensify it into at least a category 1, and some even take it into cat 2 and even into cat 3. Now the random model that goes up to cat 4, we're gonna ignore that one. That's a complete outlier. The max intensity I see this thing getting to is a high end cat 1, maybe pushing a low end cat 2. But I'm really sticking at a hurricane being a possibility with this high end tropical storm, a low end category 1 hurricane. Until the National Hurricane Center says otherwise, I'm not going to be forecasting really more than a low end hurricane with this. There's just too much uncertainty to be forecasting a category 3 out of this. So don't listen to these ensembles and model runs that are saying category 3, category 4. However, I would be taking the category 1, category 2 hurricane ensembles as well as members here with actually quite a bit of certainty there. I do think we have the chance to have a category 1, maybe 2 hurricane. But again, I don't want to hype the system up too much and then it just flops. So that's why I'm not really talking about category 3 or category 4 with this. Really, category 1 tropical storm is what I'm looking at with this system. And then we could go ahead and look at your GEFS ensembles here. I'll go ahead and scroll this down just a little bit so you can see it better, and also move my face cam. So there's your ensembles. Again, it takes this right on into the Lesser Antilles. You can see where the intensification phase really happens. Right about here, that's when most of your ensembles start to see that yellow, the orange, and I don't see any reds or pinks here, so I don't believe any of these ensembles are showing anything more than about a category 2 hurricane. Maybe a mid-tier category 2 hurricane as this system begins to move into the Eastern Caribbean. This is going to be where we have the best chance for a hurricane, right here where I've circled. As this system is over the Lesser Antilles, if not moving away from the Lesser Antilles, that's when this thing could turn into a hurricane, possible tropical storm as well. So just keep an eye on it. Keep a very close eye on it. Again, there's your tracks on tropical tidbits this time. There's your median in the black there, which even the median has this thing becoming a tropical storm, 999, 996 millibar. That's your most likely scenario as a tropical storm at this point, given a low end tropical storm, but still a tropical storm. And again, I would say a possible hurricane with this system as it tracks into the Caribbean. So you do want to keep a very, very close eye out. Again, here's the National Hurricane Center, a very large area of a high chance of formation into a tropical storm or a tropical depression by the time we go into the latter portion of this week and into early July. So we're looking at June 30th, July 1st for the main potential of this system turning into a tropical storm, even a potential hurricane system over the Yucatan. Not that much of an issue. I do want to just go ahead and show you guys the current satellite imagery. Bear with me while I just go over here to the Eastern Atlantic. That's your tropical wave, the other tropical storm that the GFS spits out for some odd reason. We'll be keeping an eye on that. So again, there's Invest 95L, and then here's our other just tropical wave. It's now moving into that main development region area off of Africa, so we will be monitoring that at least somewhat closely. I'll just provide a quick hurricane, or rather a quick severe weather update here. So if you came for the tropical update, we're now moving into the severe weather portion of this, just to update you guys briefly on this. So here's today's outlook for June 27th. We still have a large enhanced risk for severe weather today. The tornado risk is still a large 5% chance for tornadoes, with a new addition of a 2% tornado risk back out there in Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming. The highest tornado threat will be most likely in between 21Z and 03Z, so a very long time frame. That's from about 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern time, and it will be focused on any prefrontal supercells we see out in front of that main line of damaging wind potential. Speaking of damaging winds, the SPC did upgrade to a very large 30 significant chance for damaging winds. Now, I believe this was a more confined 30 sig risk for damaging winds, but that is now a very large 30 sig risk for damaging winds, possibly exceeding 80 miles per hour. Hail threat also, we could see isolated 3 to maybe even pushing 4-inch in diameter hail up there in North Dakota and Montana. Tomorrow's risk, it's really there's a lot of uncertainty. They do have a 5% tornado risk out for the Kansas City area for tomorrow, June 28th, because the ingredients will be a little bit higher out there. So if we see storms fire towards Topeka, Kansas, around the Kansas City, Missouri area, they will have a better chance of producing tornadoes. However, the main threat will remain with the potential of 70 to potentially even up to 80-mile-an-hour winds, as well as 2 to 2.5-inch hail possible tomorrow. Day 3, we do have a slight risk for severe weather out here in Ohio, Pennsylvania. The main threat with that should be winds, maybe some isolated small to large hail, and a brief tornado will probably be at least a possibility with that as we go into June 30th. I believe this is going to be for July 1st here. We have a day 4 risk for the potential of all hazards up here in Montana and North Dakota, and then we actually have a day 5 15% chance, which is a slight risk for severe weather as well. So a lot of severe weather on the table, a lot of tropical activity to keep an eye on, a lot of stuff to watch in the weather world. So make sure you guys are hyper weather aware out there if you're in any of the risk areas for today. Again, we do have also a marginal risk out there in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. That threat downtrended considerably, so it's really just an isolated wind risk with that. So that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, do take note that the National Hurricane Center may have upgraded probabilities a bit more on that, as this is a little bit of an older information video. I just wanted to provide at least somewhat of an update on this today. So sorry this couldn't be a more up-to-date video, but I mean, it's better than nothing. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe, watch severe weather in the tropics. Also, I don't plan to do a live stream today. Goodbye.